Welcome back to another edition of Through the Smoke, a Miami Hurricanes football and recruiting podcast here on the 24/7 Sports Network. David Lake, joined as always by Gabby Urrutia. We're here to, once again, we're recording one podcast this week. It's Thanksgiving week, so it's just easier to cram it all into one podcast. Pit week, big week as it relates to Miami's overall season and, their chances. The ACC championship game is still alive. A lot of permutations there. And of course, the CFP at-large bid is also alive. We'll dive into the latest college football playoff rankings. We are recording this, about 20 minutes after those rankings dropped. So, before we dive into things, of course, I want to start with Canes Connection. That, of course, is Miami's collective. Signing day is less than or it is a week away by
hmm
the time we publish this podcast, and it is closing time. So it's also time to double down, support those guys however you can. They play a critical role in talent acquisition, whether that's high school recruiting or via the portal, which opens in January. Also, want to highlight our guy, Nick Musarino, uh, at Musarino Law. If you've been injured in any type of accident, whether that's a slip and fall, boating accident, trucking, Uber Lyft accident, any type of car accident, Nick Musarino is the personal injury attorney you should contact at 561-960-9870 or visit his website at flinjury.law. Also want to highlight, Gabby, inside the U. It is Thanksgiving week, so you got Black Friday, you got Cyber Monday going on. 24/7 is this week, across the network. They have a 75% off VIP sale for an annual subscription. That'll run you just $30, which over the course of a year, if you just average that out, that's $2.50 a month for a year. I think $30 is worth it just for the next 2 months of being a subscriber because again, you're going to have the CFP stuff going on. Who knows how the ACC championship game shakes out, signing day, transfer portal. A lot's going to be going on over the next 10 weeks or so. So take advantage of this 75% off sale. $30 gets you a VIP membership for 1 year. If you enjoy this podcast, support us that way too. All right, Gabby, CFP rankings have dropped. Miami moved up one spot. They leapfrog Utah. So Miami is now up to number 12. Technically they're still on the outside looking in. With the way things are set up, you need to essentially be top 10 to feel like you're in the college football playoff field because the G5 or the top five conference champions, one presumably will be a G5 team. That is, who is it? Number 24, Tulane right now is the highest ranked G5 team. And then the highest ranked ACC team right now is, besides Miami, Virginia. And they have, I think them and SMU essentially have the easiest paths to Charlotte. SMU is also ranked 21st, so that's a ranked loss. We know how this committee likes quality losses. And Pittsburgh is also ranked this week. They check in at number 22. So Miami has a ranked matchup this week against Pittsburgh. All eyes will be on Miami. And look, you know, this week with Miami moving up to 12, they are now in that tier of being able to be compared to Notre Dame, which is a good thing. I don't know if I necessarily want to say it's a bad thing, but maybe the concerning thing is that nothing really changed, even though they are now in the same tier and able to discuss the head-to-head matchup or how that should enter into the equation when you compare the resumes. They still rank Notre Dame ninth, and again, Miami 12th. So, Gabby, your reaction to all this, wherever you want to take this, there's a lot of talking heads out there, I think, with a lot of interesting opinions.
Gosh,
They shape opinions and narratives, I think. So what they say does matter. I think a lot. Uh, But in general, look, my takeaway is overall, it's a good thing Miami's up to number 12. I think the bottom line is, of course, you got to go beat Pitt and keep applying that pressure of, okay, Notre Dame is probably going to go 10-2. If Miami beats Pittsburgh, they are 10-2. Are you really going to leave the team that beat one of those teams out of the playoff at the end of the day? We'll see. Essentially, Miami's got to go beat Pitt before we get to that part.
Yeah, Miami needs to be Pitt. I mean, that's where I'm at. This is a huge last game. This is a situation that Miami's been in before. Different, but similar. You just go back to last year in Syracuse with everything on the table, and that last game just being so important on the road. I think that this is kind of a redemptive opportunity for Miami to kind of right the wrongs of last year, just maximize and capitalize on an opportunity to go on the road and beat a good Pitt team. I mean, that Pitt team, when they've played good football, it's been really, really good football. So I think that's just the bottom line of it. All this stuff is cool. The positioning that Miami's in is great compared to, the fact that they're leapfrogging Utah. So that's just one less school that you have to worry about. Vanderbilt, when they kind of demolished Kentucky, I think that there was some concern that with just them being in the SEC, the natural nature of how some of this stuff goes, that maybe Vanderbilt could jump. I thought that there was a possibility that Vanderbilt got a favorable outcome in all of this. So I think where Miami's at is where you want them to be. I think it's where you kind of need to be in order to kind of make that leap as like one of the top at-large bids. Still, this is an uphill climb. I think that that's still pretty important to kind of say because I do think if Miami beats Pitt, it's going to be really difficult to beat them out. But this game is massive. Like this is going to be such a huge, huge, huge game. And as far as the talking heads go, I mean, some of these conversations are ridiculous. I think I think Joey Galloway has a bone to pick with the University of Miami for whatever reason. I feel like people are cherry picking their arguments to kind of fit whatever narrative that they feel like it is that they want to push. I think Joey Calloway definitely has an anti-Miami narrative because he loves talking about how Notre Dame blew out Syracuse 70-7, and then kind of tried to throw a weird, shady comment at Miami, like Notre Dame, like they were up 38-3 against Syracuse before the backups allowed a late touchdown, and then conveniently leaves out that Notre Dame was basically up 12-10 on Boston College, a one-win Boston College team. Basically at the end of the third quarter, I think they scored there at the very, very end of the third quarter, and then they were also.
Also, who was Syracuse's quarterback against Notre Dame?
Yeah, I think
Remind
he
me.
plays lacrosse. I'm pretty sure, right?
Okay.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know, but we don't talk about those things, right? We just
Yeah.
look at we're just scoreboard watching, and we're again nitpicking when teams are allowed to look good and when they don't look good. So Miami's win against Virginia Tech didn't was concerning, but wasn't
And
concerning.
Miami's not getting better here over these last 3 weeks, right? That's only Notre Dame. Only
Only
Notre
Notre Dame.
Dame's getting better.
Only Notre Dame's getting better, and all that stuff. Common opponents. Only Syracuse is the only common opponent talked about. Not NC State, who
Yeah.
was not in 10. It was 10-7 at the half, and Miami's up 24-0. But we're not talking about those things. We're only getting on national TV on ESPN, shaping narratives as you're talking about, and only sharing perspectives that fit. That Miami's just for some reason not good enough to play in this thing. Look, winning's hard, and we've talked about that. And Miami has been its own worst enemy. I think I think they should be dinged for their hiccups, but I think that they've pivoted, and I think they're playing as good a football as they've played all season. I think Carson Beck is playing the best football of his time at Miami. David, you've written two excellent articles, and if you haven't read them on InsideU.com, just kind of talking about why Miami is a
Yeah, because
college
I'm
football playoff.
tired. So I'm doing this quote unquote series and I'm tongue in cheek naming it I Test Chronicles, right? Because there's this talk about like, oh, Notre Dame passes the eye test over Miami. Like when you talk about like, okay, Miami beat them, why should not they not get in over? Well, Notre Dame passes the eye test more than Miami does. So I'm tongue in cheek doing this eye test chronicles idea of like, look, man, Miami passes the eye test too. I don't know what to tell you guys. Like
Yeah.
Miami's the college football playoff caliber team too. So, yeah, I mean, Carson Beck, you could argue, I mean, statistically, certainly it backs it up, but you could argue he's playing the best football of any quarterback in the country over the last 3 weeks. Now we're cherry picking 3 weeks, but the stats don't lie. He's balling out right now.
Yeah.
And then, we've talked about how it's a line of scrimmage team. Miami's, statistically and just like PFF grade wise, they're the best line of scrimmage team in the country. It's essentially
Yeah.
them and Iowa and Indiana, right?
Mm,
So uh, those are three of the main position groups where eye test matters: quarterback, offensive line, defensive line. Those are the positions that decide games. Those are that's why, like, if Miami did get in the playoff, they would more than hold their own. Like, they are a dangerous
absolutely.
team
They'd be a tough
if they
out,
get
right?
in.
No one was going to want to play Miami in this college football playoff. Like, there's not a
And
team
if
that's
we're
going to
just,
host that's going to be like,
mhm.
thank God we drew Miami.
And look, I don't necessarily believe in this. Like, I think eye test matters somewhat. I think your resume, like who you played, who you beat, should matter more. But like, if we're just talking eye test, to me, Gabby, and look, certainly I could be accused of bias. To me, eye test wise, Miami is better than Ole Miss. Miami is better than Oklahoma. Miami is better than Notre Dame because we saw that.
Yeah, we watched that.
Miami's better than Alabama. Miami slapped around Florida State. Alabama got smoked by Florida State. So if we're just talking eye test, Miami
And
is
then
absolutely,
Alabama lost to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's offense looks like
yeah.
anemic right now, right?
I think Oregon, I think that's to
Yeah,
me where like the conversation happens, but I think Miami's right there with Oregon, and
yeah.
Oregon is firmly in at 6.
BYU. I
Now,
mean, we're talking about BYU. Like, I mean,
yeah,
I don't
I
know.
mean Miami, yeah. And look, BYU's this is where the resume part comes in. Like, okay, like BYU hasn't necessarily beat any, well, they beat Utah. They haven't played a super tough schedule, but they've gone 11-1. So I do
Right.
respect that. But yeah, eye test wise, Miami's much better than they
Yeah.
would beat BYU on the
Yeah.
field. So they pick and choose what they want, team by team, and it's frustrating. But look, if we're gonna and look, Miami's who knows? National wise, college football playoff wise, let's talk about potential chaos that could help Miami. I think, I think you could start at number 6, Oregon. But man, I think Oregon's firmly in, even if they lose to Washington. Maybe that becomes like a talking point. I don't know. Maybe they drop them that much, but Oregon against Washington would be a game to watch this weekend. Ole Miss, the Egg Bowl, I think is going to be an interesting one to watch this weekend. Oklahoma plays LSU. LSU's kind of like a zombie team right now, but they do have some talent. Notre Dame plays Stanford. The only thing interesting about that game is it's like a 10:30 kickoff, but Notre
Hmm.
Dame should win that game. And then Alabama has the Iron Bowl against Auburn. So to me, if you're looking at ones like I'm looking at Ole Miss, I'm looking at Alabama, maybe Oklahoma, LSU, but I'd be surprised about that. But I'd focus in on those in particular.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, and again, Miami has a narrow path to the ACC championship game. I personally don't want to get into all those permutations. It's essentially like if Virginia Tech beats Virginia and what? One of like Cal and Cal beating SMU and then Duke losing to Wake Forest. So there seems to be a clear agreement from pundits that Wake Forest is going to go beat Duke. So um, who
Here
do
for
you
that.
get between the other ones? I don't know. But there's also like crazy different permutations too that I mean there's like 8 different ways that Miami could get in, and all of the likelihood of them is very slim. So we'll
Yeah.
see. This is going to be a fun weekend, no matter what.
Yep.
And but from a Miami perspective, absolutely, the most important thing is beating Pitt and putting pressure on this head-to-head conversation needing to happen. Anything
Yeah.
else you want to say about the rankings?
I mean, one last thing, just because I feel like I need to
Yeah.
get this off my chest. Just with this whole di like, I just even just with the Notre Dame thing, just I feel like what I keep seeing is just like, oh, what would the line be if Miami and Notre Dame played on a neutral field right now? And it's just like, I feel like we're allowing these conversations to take place in hyperbole.
What was it? What
Right,
was it in
and
August?
exactly, and I was like, people keep talking about, like, oh, Notre Dame would be favored right now. I was like, Notre Dame was favored on August 31st at Hard Rock Stadium, and guess what? They didn't win that game. So, like, yeah, Notre Dame might be favored on a neutral field. Like, it
It's
doesn't matter.
stupid.
They were favored at Miami when they opened the season after a national championship run, and they lost decisively. Like at no point did it seem
Yeah.
like Notre
It'd
Dame
be
was going to win
like
that game. And it's like, so what, like just like what are we doing? So I'm just like, can we stop talking? Like I feel like we live in this like betting
the
world
game
where just
happened.
everything, yeah, where everything can just be like just discussed in this just model of just points and spreads and
Power rankings.
yeah, power, yeah, like power rating these things. It's like we played the football and people are talking about week 1 like it was an eternity ago. Like why do we play 12 games in a season if we're going to decide that the first ones don't count, right? Like what,
Why
like if it's
play
a
week
part of
one
the
games
right,
that matter?
why are we playing
Why
this game?
do it?
If you're going to tell me in week 12 or week 13 that this or 14 whatever we're in that this game doesn't matter, like why are we playing a 12 game season? So we're
Play
not going to
FCS teams.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's just to me this whole conversation is just silly. So it's like because it's like I'm not talking about Miami beat Notre Dame in 2023 the last time they played. It's like this calendar season, the one that we're currently playing, Miami won that game. So
Yeah, if we're
it's
gonna
not like
act
this is
like
a totally different
Miami's
team. It's not like there's a new quarterback. It's not like Miami's banged up. It's like same teams. Same teams. Yes, their quarterback was young. Yes, it was his first start. He was still playing in the game. Like this is like the game was still played this year. There has like the results of this current season need to matter for this season. In any professional model, like if the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm just making up two teams, like played in week 3 and the Jaguars beat the Chiefs, but in week 18, the Chiefs look awesome. They've rattled off 7 straight wins, but it comes down to the Jaguars and the Chiefs. And whatever the case is, the Jaguars haven't been playing as well. If the Jaguars have the head-to-head over the Chiefs, guess who's getting into the playoffs? Like it's
yeah.
just like these head-to-heads have to matter beyond anything else. Like it's the premise of the sport. It's why we play the games. Otherwise, let's just hit simulate on all these games. Like let's just simulate this game like
Well,
we're playing a video game. Like it's just like what is this? Like what conversations are we
let's
having?
let's say this from a Miami perspective too, right? Like if we're just going on betting lines and favorites and like if they played today, who would win type of logic. Well, then the same could be said with Miami and Louisville, right?
Yep,
The same could be said with Miami and SMU, right? So like why
100%.
doesn't Miami get that same grace? Like, yeah, if Miami played those two teams again, Miami would wipe the floor with them. But
Yeah,
they didn't, right? Those losses matter. So the Notre Dame loss against Miami should matter too. I
right.
don't know. It's all wild. And the thing that's wild to me too about it is when you have like it's one thing for like media talking heads to say it, but like Joey Galloway played football. And like you would
Right.
think a football player would value the games.
Of course.
Um, I don't know. It's just wild to me.
I think there's some agenda pushing going on, but that's just me. That's just this media guy
Yeah,
talking recklessly.
no, no, no. He's definitely he's all in on Notre Dame, and he's just going
Uh,
down with that ship no matter what. So I don't know. It's how he feels. Um, all right, let's transition to because again, it's a week until signing day, Gabby.
yep.
So I kind of want to give you the floor. Like this is a time to get guys over that finish line. You know,
Yep.
whether it's guys that have been in the boat, been committed. I think getting guys across the line is trickier than maybe the fans realize sometimes. Also pushing for maybe some late flips. Also, like I'm kind of saying, preventing guys from flipping away, etc. And also just sometimes you cut guys loose. Um,
hmm
what do we need to know? A week until signing day. What do you feel like are some of the talking points here?
Yeah, I think that there are a few that are interesting. You talk about kind of keeping guys on board through signing day. I think that there's definitely a couple situations that are kind of just worth tracking. Kind of wrote a few a few of them last week. Anthony Kennedy is one that I'm probably watching closest as far as someone that I'm not sure if I expect him in this class. He's a four-star defensive lineman out of Arkansas, I believe. Miami took him in the summer, and I think that there's an eventual parting of ways that's going to kind of happen there. So that's something that I would kind of anticipate if I was a Miami fan. There are a couple other situations. Ashari Charles is, from what I understand, getting some pushes from schools like Texas Tech and Missouri. I think Miami could cross the finish line there for sure. But I think that there's also, those are situations that you have to kind of, again, you got to get these things just across one more week. So see where that one goes. Another one's Jordan Campbell, the local linebacker edge commit, really just an edge. I think that's just kind of the consensus of how he's kind of viewed at Miami. He's another one
Okay.
it's been kind of wishy-washy throughout the process. Committed very early. He was Miami's first commitment in this class. I believe he committed in like September 2023, and he's been committed the whole time, but it's been a series of on and off and off on and off of shut down my recruitment's still open, and so I think that that's one that Miami's still kind of figuring out too, as far as
Who's
just
at play there?
not. I don't know, like, of one school in particular. Schools that I've just heard, kind of down this final stretch, like Syracuse has come up, even though I kind of felt like that was dead. Missouri kind of came up, and I'm not sure if that's even that real. I've heard Nebraska too, so we'll see if anything ultimately emerges. But I could also see him kind of following through with
Ugh,
Miami. Um,
those are some wild schools to
yeah, I mean, it
pick.
is what it is. See, again, he could also just sign with Miami. I'm not saying that he's not.
Yeah,
I just think that everyone's kind of waiting to
kicking the
see which way
tires.
this one goes. Yeah, or just, I think it's been one of those situations where it's been so up and down. It's been like roller coastery. Um, and then Javian Mallory is another one, the running back commit. I heard that North Carolina was making a really aggressive run at him. Whether he follows through with that is a
Ugh,
different discussion. But
you can't beat Danny Miaz. Come on,
yeah, I
don't go to
mean,
North. Like
I
that's a
mean,
train wreck. Come on.
from what I understand, I think he wants to be here, but I think, it's North Carolina and they're trying to make splashes to finish. So we'll see ultimately if that's a situation to kind of track. As far as guys leaving the class, I think that's really just like what's potentially on my radar. Not saying that again that all those guys will leave the class or won't, but I think that's just some stuff that I'm tracking. As far as guys who could potentially join the class, I think couple of guys I'm watching closest right now. Amari Latimer, the running back, committed to Wisconsin. He just went to Wisconsin for a visit. His brother plays at Wisconsin. I think there's a chance that he does follow through with the Badgers. Miami's been really trying to kind of get him here, so we'll see if that's something that they're ultimately able to accomplish here down the final stretch of the week. An interesting situation that developed this week, David, too, is Karsten Bush. He's someone we talked about a little bit earlier in the season, just because Miami offered him. He was committed to Louisville from Louisville, and he shut down his recruitment after Louisville beat Miami. He's now this a couple days ago. I believe it was on Monday. He decommits from Louisville. There's a lot of Wisconsin buzz. There was some Vanderbilt buzz. There's definitely some Miami buzz. And I guess all I can really say about this is that Miami's probably not the reason why he decommitted. And I think that's why you're seeing some early Wisconsin buzz. But I think now that he has decommitted, I expect, and I said this on the board on Monday too, like I expect Miami to be very aggressive here. They really want to and are highly motivated to add to this linebacker class. They like J.J. Edwards. They think that they need more. Karsten Bush is a 6'3", 225-pounder that Corey Heatherman kind of circled as his kind of top guy this fall. And it was
Yeah.
unfortunate that he shut things down after they lost to Louisville. It was kind of a product of all that stuff. It is what it is. And I think now that he's back on the open market, I think Miami's going to really, really try to stir up whatever situation he has kind of brewing. So if Wisconsin kind of feels good about it, Miami's going to try to sway things their way. So we'll see where it ultimately goes. How I kind of view it, David, is if he's not immediately jumping ship to another situation, The longer this stays
Yeah.
open to signing day, the better it's going to be for Miami to kind of keep, press in there. He told me initially, right after he decommitted, that Miami was definitely a school that he was interested in. And again, I know Miami's staff was eager to get in touch and reconnect with him after that. So those are some of the maybe more attainable situations. And then you have,
Wisconsin kind of making some noise. Coach
hey,
Fickle,
hey,
they didn't fire him,
they
and
have,
now they're
yeah, they have recommitted to NIL, and I would assume,
because
David,
that always works. I
it
mean,
always
Billy
always works.
Napier.
And guess who's
That's
gonna? So my take on this is just like you're recommitting to or you're re
Coach
whatever
Fickle.
it is. I mean, who's benefiting from that decision, right? Like you're probably paying your high school kids, like your class, right?
Right.
Like I feel like you're probably
100%.
sprinkling a little bit of sugar on top of everyone's deal before they get to campus so you can cross these finish lines. Suddenly Karsten Bush is decommitting from Louisville and trending to Wisconsin. Like I think Wisconsin is good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. Absolutely.
that's what they should that's what you have to do. But so we'll see if Wisconsin's able to Miami a couple, classic Wisconsin Miami battles down the stretch. We'll see
Well,
who's
they're making life difficult for Florida State, right? Like they're
yeah.
winning like I think they've won like six head-to-head battles against Coach Mike Norvell.
Yeah.
So
Just a couple coaches going at it on the trail.
it's what makes this sport great.
Makes it
So what
wonderful.
else? I cut you off. So
No,
other
no, no.
guys
I
to
mean,
know,
it's really
maybe.
just the defensive lineman with who we've been talking about all cycle,
Okay.
right?
The five-star
The
guys.
five-star guys, Anthony Jones. Last I checked in with about Anthony Jones, they felt like, there was still pulse there. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not expecting anything. I'm not, Bryce Perry Wright kind of got the same feedback. So, I mean, we'll see if there's some crazy signing day surprise. I think as far as like local guys go, I think Calvin Russell is just off the table. I don't think that that's something that like surprise
Yeah.
happens at the end from what I understand. Kind of gets similar feedback on Derek Cooper. I think one that's kind of maybe still alive is Jason Lopez, the Florida State wide receiver commit. We'll see. Again, I'm not sure if I expect anything right now. Um, but I think that that's one that maybe they're weighing or trying to figure out if maybe that's a direction that they want to go. So that's basically what I got. I don't know if it'll be a quiet, signing day. I think that they've maybe done a lot of their heavy lifting down this final
Probably
stretch
will be, right?
where they flipped a ton of guys, leading up to this point. They had that
Yeah.
crazy run, that monster run that they went on, where they added a ton of guys to the class. So I think that that was like the big splash. But we'll see. Always in for a good surprise. Always open to a nice surprise, and see how this thing wraps up. Regardless, I think it's a good class.
Absolutely. Yeah. Signing day's coming up. So 1 week away. So stay locked on to InsideView.com. Again, 75% off annual deal, $30 for a year. Go VIP today. All right. Let's take a quick break. On the other side, we'll get into this Miami-Pittsburgh game. All right, we are back. Number 12, Miami, traveling to number 22, Pittsburgh, Acrisure Stadium. Noon Eastern Standard Time kickoff, ABC
Oof,
television.
let's go.
Bob Wischusen, Lou Riddick return. Are they going to do close the gap talk, or are they going to say go get into head-to-head talk? We'll
Oof,
see.
oof,
35 degrees at kickoff. So it's going to be a
oof.
cold one, obviously.
Cold one.
Oh, Miami going up north, got to deal with that storyline. Whatever. Go win a football game. All right, injury talk. Miami, name to know, really, I think is let's see on David Blay. Mario Cristobal certainly talked us a good game uh, Monday, saying he's on schedule to play. Would be huge if David Blay's a go. Same with OJ Frederic. So we'll see. OJ is dealing with like a hand wrist deal. So we'll see if he's good to go this week finally. Keontae Scott's still out. From the Pittsburgh side, I think Desmond Reed is the guy to know. He is the running back. He's been in and out of the lineup all season. He hurt his ankle again against Notre Dame. Did not play against Georgia Tech. He is, again, from Miramar High School. He's a speed running back. He's a slasher. who's also dangerous in the pass game as a receiving threat out of the backfield. So if he is a go, he's definitely going to be highly motivated to uh, have a good game against his hometown team. The all-time series between these schools, Miami leads 29-12, and there has been one tie. Pitt won the last matchup, but man, I didn't realize it'd been this long since Miami's played Pitt, but it was back in 2022. My
Oh wow.
Pittsburgh won the game back at Hard Rock Stadium. Miami won the last matchup that was up in Pitt. That was 2021. Danny Miaz led them to a 38-34 victory in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh this season is 8-3. They're 6-1 in the ACC. They have an overtime loss to West Virginia, a 34-27 loss to Louisville, and a decisive loss 2 weeks ago to Notre Dame, 37-15. They're coming off an impressive 42-28 win against then number 16 Georgia Tech. Um, you know, game got a little bit interesting at the end, but Pitt jumped on them 28-0 and held on. Made plays at the end when they needed to get that cushion. Really, the trajectory of their season changed when they inserted freshman quarterback Mason Heinschel into the lineup, and they're 6-1 on the year with Heinschel, and they're undefeated in ACC play with him at quarterback. Their head coach, of course, is Pat Narduzzi, Coach Dews, 11th season at Pittsburgh, 80-59 record, 52-37 record in ACC play. He, of course, has a defensive background. He was the DC at Michigan State for 8 years. And then before that, he was at Cincinnati for a few years. Offensive coordinator is Cade Bell. Second year at Pittsburgh. He's one of the top kind of up and coming offensive coordinators in the country. He's only 32 years old, son of former UF legend Kerwin Bell. He dials it up in a balanced way, kind of an open passing attack, and also utilizes the run in a nice way. He's definitely a guy that's going to be going places here in his career. Defensive coordinator Randy Bates. He's Narduzzi's trusted DC, been there since 2019. And, he executes Narduzzi's famous press quarters coverage system. Pittsburgh on the year, 37 points per game. On offense, that's 12th in the country, 406 yards per game, that's 53rd. 5.5 yards per play, that's 59th. They allow 3.27 sacks per game. That's 125th nationally. And they're also bad on third down. 33.6% third down rate. That's 117th. Also bad in the red zone when it comes to scoring touchdowns. 55% red zone touchdown rate. That's 103rd. Overall, I'd characterize this offense from a statistical profile standpoint. They're an offense with explosive potential, but they're not efficient. Their average third down distance to go is 7.75 yards, which is 125th in the country. Defensively, 23 points per game allowed, that's 60th. 330 yards per game, that's 35th. 4.8 yards per play, that's 21st. 2.3 sacks per game, that's 35th. 32% on third down, that's 21st. And 70% red zone touchdown rate, that's 119th in the country. I'd say their defense from a statistical profile, they're efficient on a down to down basis, and they do allow explosive plays, I'd say at an above average rate. So overall, Gabby, I think they have a dangerous offense, explosive wise, but in terms of success rate, staying ahead of the chains on a down to down basis, they really struggle. And defensively, they are good. They're one of the better defenses Miami has faced to this point. From a personnel perspective, Gabby, let's dive into Pittsburgh here. And let's start with quarterback Mason Heinschel. He's definitely the guy that makes them go. What stood out to you about him when you watched Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I mean, Mason Heichel is he doesn't look like a freshman at times. Like, when at his best, when he's been good this year, which is why Pitt is 6-1 down the stretch while he's played. He does some awesome things. He makes plays. He has a nice arm. He could be very accurate, and what he can do kind of outside of the pocket and move things around and extend plays. He does an awesome job. I like the kid. He plays with some grit. He's got a little bit of like kind of chip on his shoulder. I think he's just a good young college quarterback, and he definitely is kind of like the engine of that offense. And they kind of entrusted him with the keys to this thing, and he's delivered for them. So Cade Bell is he runs a fun offense. He runs a good offense. He does a good job. He came from Western Carolina, recruited a ton of Miami guys over there, and kind of got that program running, which is why he was able to kind of make that leap over to Pitt. And he does an awesome job. And I think Mason Heinschel is a good fit for his offense. And I think it's a part of why he's finding success.
Yeah, the thing that stands out to me about Heintzel is his pocket presence, pocket awareness. He does a really good job of climbing the pocket to buy time and keeps his eyes downfield and will generate explosives that way. He also does, he understands where to escape the pocket, whether that's buying time to his right, buying time to his left, and keeping his eyes downfield and extending plays that way. So he is he's a freshman, but he's mature in the way he plays in terms of his pocket presence. He also can take off and scramble for a first down, which he'll certainly do against Miami, and it'll be frustrating at times. But I think in general, you're going to want him to scramble rather than try and chase him. If you're one of those back seven players in coverage, because he will then make you pay if you come up to try and get him with a downfield explosive. But he's a good player. He's going to be um, one of the better quarterbacks in the ACC next year as he continues to mature. How about their skill talent? What stood out to you about that?
Yeah, a lot of Florida flavor on offense for Pitt. Boozy Turner, Jakirian Turner, a Bushnell kid. So I think what just like that's like the South Tampa area.
Yep.
He's someone that's done a really, really good job for them. He was awesome against Georgia Tech. I think ran for like 200 or something, or 200 yards or so. So he's been excellent for them. He's kind of a small guy, 5'9", 180 pounds, but he can really roll. Desmond Reed is another guy who's like, I mean, if this kid's 5'9", Desmond Reed might be what, 5'7", 5'8", maybe.
Yeah.
Watch Desmond Reed on the 7-on-7 circuit. He is not a very big person. And then you got Raphael Williams, who was a Western Carolina guy, who does so was Desmond Reed, who came over with Cade Bell, and he's kind of inserted himself into the thick of things. There you got Kateris Hicks, who's a Miami Central kid. He does an awesome, he does, I think, a good job for them. I mean, he has some like explosiveness to him as well. So they got a couple different guys. Kenny Johnson is their leading receiver. I think it's a good group of skill position guys. These guys are fast. Kind of some of the overlooked kids because of the measurables and won't wow you.
Right.
But
Body types.
yeah, body type wise, again, both these guys are small, kind of light backs, but you know, they can roll and they can make you pay. And if Desmond Reed plays David again, I'm not sure if he will or what the situation is. But he's also
Yeah.
a pass catching threat, and when he has the ball in his hands, he can go. So there's some juice in this offense, and to your point, David, they can be explosive. I think Kateris Hicks is an underrated explosive kind of talent that they got. I think, he can
Yeah.
kind of run a nine route and go. He did it in high school all the time for Miami Central. He caught a touchdown when they upset IMG with a bunch of studs. And, that they were always very, very high on Kateris Hicks. He has signed with Louisville, transferred over to Pitt. And has done some good things for them. Same thing with Raphael Williams, just being an older guy. So I like a lot of the skill guys that they have, just because they're dudes from down here who can kind of just play and got overlooked.
Turner was very impressive against Georgia Tech in that 200-yard game. He's obviously diminutive, like he's skinny and short. but he is a slasher. He definitely has good speed, acceleration. But what stood out to me was just for his size, for his body type, he was also, at least against Georgia Tech, he was running through tackles. He was running over defensive backs. He showed a lot of
Yeah.
toughness and fight for yards.
Yeah.
So he's going to bring it.
Yeah. Do you feel like Georgia Tech, sorry,
Uh,
do you feel like Georgia Tech's bad? I kind of felt like Georgia Tech was bad, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being,
their defense is.
yeah, like I
And,
feel like their defense
you
is
know,
bad.
I think Pitt kind of forced Haynes King to be a thrower, and it was an up and down experience.
Yeah.
So,
Something about Georgia
um,
Tech hasn't sat right with me for a few weeks. I feel like they've survived.
yeah,
I don't
they're
know.
fraudulent. Yeah,
Yeah, I felt
yeah.
like they were kind of fraudy. I'm kind of glad they got exposed. I was kind of over that, but sorry to derail the conversation.
No, you're right. Yeah. Georgia Tech to me is a one-man show. Haynes King, who does a great job, putting the team on his back, and Jamal Haynes is good, but yeah, their defense is not good. How about line of scrimmage, offensive line to me, like, I don't know, Pittsburgh's kind of your average offensive line. I do think their pass protection is very much inconsistent. I think sometimes it's okay, but other times, like their tackles, they can just get pushed and bullied back.
Hmm.
And to me, like that's what Ruben Bain does best.
Hmm.
I think this could be a Ruben Bain game, and then I also think the savviness of Mesidor is going to give them issues too.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think you kind of saw that in the Notre Dame game where it's like I think it's one thing against ACC teams how you're going to look, but when you kind of start playing that next tier of defense, how you're going to look, and I think that's when you kind of saw the off. For me, that's when I was like, okay, this offensive line is definitely gettable at places where Miami's good. So um,
Yeah.
I am curious how that offensive line handles Miami's defensive front. That's playing with its, I feel like kind of playing with its hair on fire right now.
Yeah, so let's go with Pittsburgh's defensive front. Wherever you want to take it, where do you want to start there?
Yeah, I mean Pittsburgh always does a good job up front. I mean, just on their defensive line. I mean, we gotta for those deep inside the U listeners and subscribers, got a deep name to draw out for you. Francis Brew, one time
Woo woo.
Brew, one time Miami
Woo woo.
target. One time Miami target on the defensive line a couple cycles ago. He's young, so he might be a true sophomore this year now, right? But he played
He
for them as
is.
a freshman.
Yeah.
He played for them as a freshman, so this had to be what the 2020 maybe three recruiting cycle or 2024 recruiting cycle. But he was,
24.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
24 recruiting cycle. Miami kind of kicked the tires there. Um, just in the fall months, kind of was like one of those like senior risers that they saw, but never really just fully kind of put the gas on. I thought like if they tried a little bit, I
They
think they
went to
would have
go
flipped
watch
him.
him, right?
Yeah, they. I think Big Joe went to go watch
Taylor?
him.
Oh,
Was it
Joe.
Taylor?
Okay.
I think it was Big Joe. I think Big Joe
Okay.
went to go watch him. I think if JT went to go watch him,
Home.
maybe it's a different story. Uh, yeah. Um, and so yeah, he's playing good football. He's been playing good football for them for a couple years now, and so he's someone that stands out to me on the interior defensive line that can kind of get after it.
Yes, he is good. Really, like to me, their defense, they got three good linebackers.
Yeah,
Rasheem Biles, Kyle Lewis, Braylon Lovelace. Those
very
guys are
very
a
good.
problem.
Yeah.
They are good in coverage and they are good as blitzers, and they make that whole defense go. What stood
Hmm.
out to you about that group?
I mean, I think that's three of the best linebackers like in the sport. Like I think that that's a really really good group of guys. Like all three of them get after it. Kyle Lewis is super athletic. He's been awesome for them for the past few years. Lovelace has a huge pick six, and you kind of see, him kind of just show off the athleticism on that with just the way he was able to kind of take it downfield. Biles too is just one of those. I mean, they're all really really good football players, and yeah, I think that linebacker trio is a huge problem for anybody, and those guys can get after it and. I think they're uniquely equipped to kind of handle a lot of different things. So I really like those three guys. Randy Bates again does a really good job. I met him at FIU one time during a camp when Pitt was down here. Good guy. Randy Bates is a good guy. And but those three backers can get after it.
So Biles has two pick sixes, and as you mentioned, Lovelace had one against Georgia Tech. So they make big time plays.
Hmm.
Their secondary, like to me, Gabby, like Rashad Battles, the one who stood out to me. He's kind of like a 6'2", 6'3" type of corner. Uh, Cruz Brookins was a solid safety, I thought, just watching Pittsburgh. But I think the way that this Pittsburgh defense is meant to go from a structure standpoint, um, they leave them on islands downfield, and they dare quarterbacks to test them deep. And so, for the most part, I think this defense holds their own with that. But did anything stand out to you about their secondary?
No, I mean nothing in particular. Just about. I mean, I know they do a good job on the back end too. This defense is good. Pat Narduzzi's known for his defense, and Pitt's always a strong defense. And I think that this year, with those backers, with what they do up front and the guys that they got on the back end, I mean, they're going to be a problem, and I think they're going to be a huge challenge for Carson Beck and this passing offense. So you got to be sharp.
How about things we want to see from Miami? Where do you want to go from here?
Yeah, for me, I think it starts with just heating up Mason Heinschel. I think Notre Dame did a good job of that early in the game. You kind of go back and watch that, and just even watching it in real time, like I think you kind of saw how they kind of made him uncomfortable and kind of got him off balance, kind of caught him just kind of having to react, and definitely rattled him up. And I think that kind of set the tone for that game early, and I think it allowed Notre Dame to kind of get on top and stay on top. And I think uh, putting Mason Heinschel in a similar situation, and to your point, like that's watching that game, I'm like, man, if this Miami defensive line can play in that way, I think they can kind of make it tough because I think it's a unique matchup. It's not Georgia Tech. It's not one of these ACC like this Miami defensive line can really be problematic, I think, especially for a young quarterback. So I think that's one of the keys to game is getting Mason Heinschel kind of a little bit rattled up early on in the game.
Yeah, I agree. Like the Miami defensive line needs to dominate Pittsburgh's offensive line, and because, like you said, that's exactly what Notre Dame did in their game against Pittsburgh. Notre Dame whipped Pittsburgh up front.
Hmm.
Um, and then within that, like you got to finish your chances on Heitchel because
Hmm.
he is a slippery quarterback in terms of like getting out of pressures. Um, Again, I think the Pitt pass protection is a bit inconsistent. And on those tackles where Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor whip the tackle, that pass rush needs to get home and don't allow Heinchel to improvise and make a play because that can be demoralizing. So I agree with you. We're on the same page there. Where else do you want to go?
Yeah, I think this Pitt running game, right? Like again, they kind of broke free against Georgia Tech last week with Boozy Turner. Again, we'll see what the situation with Desmond Reed. But I think you kind of go back and you watch that Notre Dame game and what they did. I mean, they ran for 70 total yards, 2.8 yards per rush. So Miami kind of got gashed a little bit on those outside runs
Yep.
against Virginia Tech a week ago. I think that that's something that Pitt, coming off of a hot rushing performance, I think you can look at and feel like you can get an advantage, especially with the smaller statured guys and an offensive line that, again, against a big physical defensive line, that could be kind of like the formula. So I think kind of stopping those guys and kind of setting the tone early in the run game, as far like with the Pitt running game, getting a couple stops, no explosive runs, limiting all that stuff, I think is big for Miami to get settled into the game.
Yep. I will say, against Pittsburgh, the way that they line it up on defense, you got to hit
Hmm.
on your shots downfield. It's a lot of quarters coverage. And so you got to be willing to take those shots, and you need your receivers to make plays downfield. So whoever it is, again, it's no secret what Pitt runs from a coverage standpoint, and you just got to go make plays against it.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say, like if I'm boiling this game down to one area, Gabby, I think in a lot of ways this game could be determined on third down on both sides.
Hmm.
Um, Miami's average third down distance ranked 16th nationally in terms of best. Miami's average third down distance is 6.39 yards. Pitt's defense, their average third down distance that they have other teams facing is 7.94 yards to go, which is ninth best. So that's kind of a strength on strength matchup. On the flip side, Pittsburgh's offense, again, we talk about this idea of Pittsburgh being explosive, but not overly efficient on offense. Again, their third down conversion rate is not good. Their average third down distance to go, 7.75 yards, which is 125th in the country. Miami's defense, the average third down that opponents face against them is 8 yards to go, which is seventh in the country. So if Miami's offense can win that third down battle against this Pittsburgh defense, which I think is easier said than done, because again, Pittsburgh wants to get their opponent in third and long situations, because that's when they kind of do their creative six-man fronts with their linebackers. They bring their linebackers into the pass rush game and kind of make you guess, make an offensive line guess who's coming, who's dropping back. So that's kind of a tough situation, those third and long situations against Pittsburgh. Also, this is a game where penalties, I think, can play a significant role. It's a big difference. It's a massive difference against a team like Pittsburgh between a 3rd and 6 and a 3rd and 11. So if you start having these silly pre-snap penalties, that can totally derail drives and totally derail, the trajectory of a game in terms of a successful game for Miami. So third down to me in this game in particular, it's always a key down. But in this game, I think third down plays a large role in determining the winner.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I think Carson Beck too, just he's been playing clean football. These linebackers are, savvy with picking off passes and stuff like that. Just a clean, Carson Beck just really keeping the ball away from those guys and, kind of continue to stay on pace and on brand of just what he's been over the past 3 weeks and continue to get that ascent as Miami's judged and really just to also just to win this game. I think Carson Beck needs to be, clean and not kind of let those turnovers pile up or just play a clean turnover game. So, I mean, this is going to be an interesting game, David, man. I think that this is going to be,
Tell me this.
this is going to be like an edge of your seat type of game for me.
You might have, oh yeah, you might have checked out on the college football playoff show. Did you see what Hunter Yurachek said?
I didn't.
So he was asked about, of course, like the Miami Notre Dame thing, right? And he was talking about basically whatever. He said they've started to compare them, but this is where it is right now. And then he discussed how with Miami we wanted to see more consistency. And he said, and we're starting to see that from Carson Beck the last 3 games. So he's like specifically talking about Carson Beck, and then
Yeah.
he specifically starts dropping Carson Beck's stat line over the last 3 games.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's like, dude, like this is a good, I don't know. I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but I mean, he made it sound like this basically all comes down to Carson Beck going out
Hmm.
and balling out against Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And so I wonder like, okay, if Carson Beck goes out and throws for 150 and 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions and Miami wins, is that going to be good enough? Or,
Yeah.
is Hunter Yurachek going to be like, oh, this guy isn't being as consistent as he was
Right.
the previous
I
three
wonder if
weeks?
I also wonder if that's just like kind of like the popular. I wonder if too if it's just like are they just kind of getting some of the stuff that people are because like you got the Bear that's posting about Carson Beck, you got some of these guys, so maybe it's just like
Right.
an easy stat to kind of talk about how Miami's playing better football. Maybe you're right, it could be
But
that.
it's in the weeds, though.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
We're along the same lines. It's
Yeah,
just ridiculously in the weeds of
yeah,
like,
yeah,
all right, dude, like
yeah.
you
You
don't
could
talk
just
about any
say
other quarterback like this.
right
I
in
mean,
depth. Yeah, it was that sounds like a pretty specific
it's
like
silly.
stat
It's all
drop.
just so silly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, How about a matchup you like most
Yeah.
from the Miami side?
Yeah, I think just the defensive line, Miami's defensive line against that, with the pit pass rush, Miami's defensive
Agreed.
line against, Pitt's, gosh, it's 10-40,
Offensive line.
and I have two kids that are 3 and
It's
younger, so
940.
940. I'm out of it. So yeah, that's what I like. I just think Miami's defensive line could be so disruptive in this game. I see a huge
I agree.
opportunity for them to kind of be overwhelming. So we'll see if that ends up being the case.
Matchup to keep an eye on, I will say one thing I'm a little concerned about is Miami's linebackers in space against
Mm,
these Pittsburgh running backs. These are quick, shifty, quick accelerating linebackers. Pittsburgh does a good job of getting the ball to them on checkdowns in the pass game or
yep.
designing things up for the in the pass game. Miami's linebackers, as are most linebackers, don't really excel in coverage. And so that's one thing where I'm a little bit queasy going into this week's game.
Yeah, that's a concern for sure. I mean, both those guys are shiftier, smaller guys, and you gotta key in on them because I think they're a huge part of what they do on offense. And I think it comes down to like, the help that they get from. Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. The help they get from like never mind. The help they get from like Bryce Fitzgerald, Zechariah Poyser playing safety. Like I think there's a lot of guys that are going to need to step up because again I
Yeah,
feel like this is one of those games that Keontae Scott is going to just
would have
be
been
missed.
huge.
It would have this would have been a very big Keontae Scott type of game because man he's just such an eraser in these situations and you don't have that. So I think finding guys to just kind of, help kind of pick up the slack, pick up the load that he usually carries. So we'll see, man. I think that that's a key. Yeah, I think just in general, the those skill position guys, and honestly, those linebackers concern me too because, again, I think we've seen Carson Beck can sometimes get, a little bit, he could be indecisive or, and those guys can maximize
To me,
on those
that's a protection
opportunities.
thing, though.
Yeah.
Like, you need the O line to be on point.
Hmm.
To me, this is a game where you probably play Mark Fletcher more than Pringle from a
Yep.
pass pro standpoint.
I'm with you there.
So, so yeah, um, both linebackers matchups are kind of concerning.
Yep.
Um, Player that needs to step up. I'm going to go Ruben Bain.
Yeah, I think
Look,
I think with
little
those defensive
quiet,
linemen.
little quiet last game. Little
Yeah,
quiet.
yeah,
You're the best player. I need you to show up a little bit. So
yeah.
I'm gonna
He
go
needs
Ruben
to
Bain.
this needs to be a big this needs to be a big Ruben Bain game. Yeah, I think Wesley Bissaint, Bryce Fitzgerald, those types of guys, Zechariah Poyser, Jacoby Thomas. I mean, all those guys I think kind of fit the categories here. But ultimately, I think it's Carson Beck. Like we were talking about, this has got to be a game where, your quarterback is your guy. This is a situation where you got to go win a game, right? Like there's a potential playoff berth on the line. Who knows how the rest of the evening games play out? Like there could be a potential conference title appearance on the line. Like I think Carson Beck needs to play, a really strong game. Like I think he's your guy. He's your leader. He makes a ton of money. You paid him a ton of money to go win you games like this. Like ultimately, I feel like he needs to go and play strong in this environment and in this setting and help kind of get you to where you need to go or put you in position to get to where you need to go.
He's my potential player of the game. Just
Hmm.
riding the hot hand, playing really well, playing confident. And look, I think if the protection's there, I think he's gonna ball out as well. Where would you go for player of the game?
Man, I'm a hot hand. I'm gonna ride as Malachi Tony, man. Wow. I mean, he's just so impressive. I think that he's just such a playmaker. I think just the way that Miami just continues to unlock and kind of peel back the layers of his talent and who he is and his skill is just been fun to watch. And I think that there's just still so much more to him that we get to see. And I think that this could be a an impressive Malachi Tony game because I I don't know how many guys in the country can really cover him, and if you devote too much to him, I think that there are starting to develop answers in other facets of the passing game too. So Malachi Tony to me is just such key to this offense being efficient and explosive.
Prediction time. The Hurricanes are favored on FanDuel by 6.5. The
Ooh.
over-under is at 50.5 points. So kind of a lower-ish scoring game that they're predicting. Gabby, where you want to go with your prediction on this one?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a grind. I think that these are the two, honestly, I think these are the two best teams in the ACC. I think maybe there's discussion for SMU, but honestly, I think Pitt and Miami are the two best teams. If I were power rating it, right? As we so love to do these days. I think this team is for real. I think they have a lot of talent. I think they have a lot of skill. I really like the quarterback. I really like. I think the defensive guys, they do a really good job, and definitely not a perfect team, but I think both teams have a lot to play for. And again, I'm going to be chewing at my nails and probably standing 6 inches from the TV this whole time. I think Miami's going to win a close one. I'm going to go 27-24, something along those lines. I think it's going to come down to, I think this is going to be a wire to wire type of game. And, I think Miami ultimately gets this done, but, I expect it to be a dogfight.
I'm gonna go Miami 28, Pittsburgh 24. And yeah, to me, like this is the type of game where a veteran like Carson Beck and an experienced offensive line, this pit front is going to give them a little bit of issues, but I think over the course of a whole game, they should be able to handle some of those exotic blitz packages Pitt will throw at them. And look, Mason Heinchel's good, but we saw against Notre Dame, like there's levels to this in terms of like doing it against a big time defense. Miami's defense is big time. And so I think you'll see a little bit of a up and down type of situation with his performance on Saturday. So we'll see how it goes. It's certainly a dangerous game. Miami needs to close it out. I think it'd be an awesome sign, regardless of postseason outcomes. Like, of course, we're going to be disappointed if postseason outcomes don't go Miami's way. But still, man, stacking two 10-win regular seasons at the University of Miami hasn't been done in 20 plus years. That's something to be celebrated. And I think it's only a sign of more good times to come as Mario Cristobal continues to establish Miami as a stable, winning, successful program, not just successful team. So uh, go get it done. You can tell kind of the world doubts Miami can get it done as a punchline. Uh, and I think too, college football playoff rankings are kind of even baking that in that they're doubting Miami can get it done. So let's see how this team performs on Saturday. Appreciate Evan for listening. Again, go support us. 75% off deal for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We will break it down following the game against Pitt. And until next time, take care.